there weren't too many times nobody would come to your rescue if you needed them to come to your rescue. Anybody know what I'm talking about in here? And I knew just about everybody in Lightning. So it was a friendly place. It wasn't always the best place to be at, but most of the times we got along and we shared with one another. I'm trying to answer your question to the best of my ability.
You're doing great.
Okay, all right. I think it's important to Atlanta because we were just actually told to get out. And we weren't asked about our opinion at all, and we didn't get any of assistance to get out. They just said, get out. You got 30 days, get out. Something else is coming here. I just think it was done the wrong way, and I feel personally that we should be compensated for it.
We'll get back to that later on in the conversation. But I want to spend a little more time in the history of Lightning, and we'll walk forward in
I
time.
had to throw that in there.
We'll come back to that. Don't forget about it.
Okay.
Rosalind, in our conversations, one of the most meaningful parts of Lightning that you've shared with me is your family's house there. And I'm wondering if you can share with everyone, like, just take us back to the house where you were growing up and where your family spent time, and try to describe that for anyone who may have not been there and why that was so important to your family.
Okay. The house was, if I imagine myself walking into the house, my family home was on 367 Main Street. It wasn't as big as a home to have, but it was a home that my family loved. It was great memories because my grandfather and my grandmother had lived in this house. My grandfather was there till I was 10 years old. My grandmother, I never seen my grandmother. I never met my grandmother. She died before I was born. But the love and the memory that my mother and aunties and older family members had installed into us, the new generation, the second generation out of 9 kids, it was just family. I go into the home, you had a living room, the next room was a bedroom, the next room was a straight home, was another bedroom, and one corner was a bathroom, and the other corner was the kitchen, and you had your outside. Now you're talking about a home with approximately 5 rooms, but in my mind, it was a big home. It was a great home. It was a home that I had been given so much love inside, not just from my mother. You're talking about my aunts, my cousin, my friends. Lightning was like a family within a family.
Yes.
No matter what I had done or my friend's cousin, somebody was gonna find out. Everybody knew.
Everybody.
Rose did something. Rose was gonna get at least 2 whippings, a lot of tongue lashing before I got to 367 Main Street. But the home that my grandparents had bought was a home. It was love. That's what 367 Main Street was to me. It was love. And that's where I learned love from. Lightning neighborhood. That's what it was.
Thank you for sharing that. Reverend Banks, one of the things I think of from our conversations is if we're going to think of not just the homes in Lightning, but the places there, you've talked a lot about working at Mr. Cohen's store.
Yeah.
And just to give give us a snapshot of what that store meant to the community and kind of like how it played an important part in the community.
If Joe Cohen wasn't there, we wouldn't have had nothing to eat, mainly because a lot of folks didn't have cars to go somewhere else to shop. He provided everything in that store that we needed. Am I telling the truth, everybody?
Yeah.
You know, and that's why he was so important. And not only that, he even let the younger guys that he knew their parents were struggling, he would let them work in his store to help their families out. And I was one of them. You know, I used to work back in the stock room where you stock Coca-Colas and Pepsi-Colas and all the drinks and stuff like that, and unload trucks when they came in with the goods to deliver to the store. So a lot of guys that lived in Lightning had an opportunity to work in Joe Corn's store. And that was my first job. So
How old were you, and like around what time?
I was 12 years old.
This is the 60s? 70s?
Yeah, it was the 60s. Yeah, I was 12 years old when I started there, and well, that's when everything started changing a few years later. But then it was what provided a lot of necessities for the neighborhood.
You mentioned change, and I'm wondering if you could, what did you start to see changing in those, after you started working there in the years ahead? What were some of the things that started to notice before the sales of properties in eminent domain happened and all?
Right. Well, the businesses started closing first. You know, they started shutting down. The Baylor Supreme Coffee Company, the Cassett Company started to close down. I think it was a crematory up there. Also, it closed down. A lot of stuff started closing. And, you know, we started looking around like, okay, what's going on in the neighborhood? You know, and then you start hearing rumors that they're getting ready to tear down the whole neighborhood. But, you know, a lot of folks stayed there to the bitter end. I mean, to the bitter end. They just refused to leave. They just had to really just tell them, hey, y'all got to go, you know, because we're going to have to tear your house down regardless. I'm hoping I'm answering your question.
You are.
Okay.
I wonder if you can summarize what happened with your family in terms of eminent domain and for folks who may have not been enlightening at the, yeah, I'm talking to you. Oh no, you're good. You're good. Let me ask it again. Share with folks kind of what happened with eminent domain and how it impacted your family and in the final decade or so. Yeah.
During the final time when they decided to approach my aunt, Mary, which I call her Mary Ann, Dupree, they had approached her. The final part of it, they kept really harassing her. As to say, it was harassing her, threatening her. They decided the home had been vacated, but one of my cousins had started living in a home. And upon him living in the home, one day he was asleep, the house was on fire. So the house ended up burning. So, of course, I guess I'm gonna say the family did not rush to get things together for the home, you know, try to clear, they cleared, but they kept pressuring my aunt to the point, okay, if you don't do anything to this house, we're gonna take it from you, right? So she decided to go, because the tax was being paid on the home, she decided to clean the home out to get rid of everything. So they continued to pressure her. By then, the thing was that for them to set the house, we felt they set the house on fire. Because a lot of things in the neighborhood had started happening. You know, we were one of the last family that decided to go ahead and get what they was gonna give us, which was nothing. When I say nothing, you're talking about I came out of high school in 1980. This had started happening to her in the late 70s, going into the 80s. And if I tell y'all what they gave my family in reference to that land, having land wasn't gonna get you no money opposed to having a structure on that land. So the amount that when I got the information from
Yeah, the Atlanta History Center.
History Center. What would come behind 1,300? 14,000 that they gave. Now you see how much land is called now. It's in history, it wrote down in the paper. They didn't give them anything. That's not nothing compared to what the days, of course. But in the 80s, it could have been more than that. They didn't give them anything. They really put pressure to my aunt finally say, okay. She talked to the sisters and, they all agreed. We finished. When I went over there, they had started building, Georgia World Conference Center? It started looking like, I guess, a business district. You had our home church was still standing, but they had already started moving out. They had moved.
I think it's worth noting when the state came in or the real estate companies came and started trying to buy homes, they did so in this way where they said they were paying fair market value. And one of the things we tried to show in this exhibit is what does fair market value actually mean? Like in a community like Lightning that had not only redlining, but also redlining made it easier for there to be an incinerator and for there to be air quality that was harmful to residents and made it less desirable for people to assign value to property.
Right.
And then there was in the 60s the city of Atlanta planned targeted the area, and as you can see in this exhibit, for redevelopment. And so by the time that the 70s and 80s roll around, what fair market value means is technically that is what people might have paid for it, but it didn't account for the fact of the harm that had already been baked into that current moment in time when they were saying this is what your house is worth. And I think it's important, as we kind of move forward in time, it made it easier for folks to erase the community and to destroy it and wipe it off the map. And I bring that up because one of the most powerful moments I recall from our conversation with Reverend Banks is you describing going back to the community after the stadium, the dome was built. And I'm wondering if you can share that with everyone, that recollection of you coming back.
Actually, it wasn't a community then because the structures were there.
What was it like seeing your community no longer there and being in this place that you couldn't recognize?
Well, I left angry and I still was angry. So I was upset about a whole lot of stuff that happened in Lightning. And going back seeing it, I can just say seeing it now, because it's still Lightning to me. I don't care what structures are there. I still consider this was my home up until a point, and we were forced out, not because we wanted to move. So it's not a good feeling. It's not a bad feeling. It's just more of a memory that you don't want to lose.
Can I answer that also? For me, when I went back and seen the neighborhood and seeing how it was looking, I felt real sad. I felt so bad. And a lot of time when I think about Lightning, I can remember myself being this little girl just walking from house to house in Whitfield. I can imagine myself going down to the Nelson, which we call them the Cag Head. Yeah. I can remember myself going down to Joe's Corner, and he said he helped the boys. He also let the girls do stuff. Yeah. We would go back there in the back and do, help bring the supplies inside the store. He may give us a dime or a nickel. It was just, he took interest in the kids in the neighborhood. He really did. But I get sad now. I mean, I really do. But it was kind of bitter hard when I came back from college and went there and seen it. I was really touched.
How do you describe it, I mean, over the years to your children, and now when your grandchildren are a little bit older but can't see the neighborhood? Like, how do you convey, like, the fact that they're, like, how do you describe that to your family that wasn't able to experience that?
Yeah. I have to compare it to Lion City, which to us, Lion City wasn't anything. Like it was the best. So I have to say it was sort of like Lion City, but to me, like I said, my young child mind, it was the best. I mean, I tell them, y'all, you know, what y'all do now is nothing. You know, we learn how to be responsible. We learn how to respect, and we learn how to survive. That neighborhood, we was poor, but we were survivors. You know, parents, and they put that inside of us. But I mean, I get so emotional sometimes knowing that I can't see my family home. You know, I don't get a chance to see their neighborhood. I just want to be able to have my kids like I came to once my mother got her home, I can take them to that home and say, hey, this is why Big Mama bought her first home, and over there I don't have anything to show. When they burnt that home down that belonged to the Dupree family, we had pictures. Things like that we can't replace. My grandfather, I don't have no pictures of my grandfather. You know, it hurts so much to know that we don't have those things that a lot of people who may have left before us, and that they had burnt their home down. I'm sorry, I get upset because lightning, well, I'm about that life. And when I seen you asking about it, I was like, okay, I'm on.
So if you're explaining to folks today that are going to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium or to the Congress Center that know nothing about lightning, which is many people in Atlanta, if you had a chance to explain to them, like, why should we remember lightning? Why does it matter? Like, how do you explain to that person, like what's sort of your explanation of the importance of lightning to the rest of Atlanta?
I feel that my feeling is that this is a neighborhood that was taken. I would tell the person, hey, you know, the Congress Center is here. It's connected to the Mercedes-Benz, but where you standing right now used to be a neighborhood. It was a family-oriented neighborhood where black families build, develop, love one another, and supported each other. You're right. And where you at now is a very part of Atlanta history, and it should be recognized. They should have something in place. They got a sign talking about the Georgia World Congress Center. They should put what was there before. They should put it. It should be in place that someone know we was there. We was there, and we're still here. And we deserve the right to be known. And yeah, there's a lot of sacrificing, you know, to a lot of family, a lot of memories, that sacrifice. You know, I want them to know, hey, you right here where life is stood. You right here. You're in a good neighborhood. We was rough, but we was good.
We're going to open this up to anyone who wants to come to the microphone in a minute and join this conversation or ask questions. But before we do, I wanted to come back to the thing we started this conversation with, which, because I promised I wouldn't forget. You mentioned we're sitting in an exhibit that is around this idea of justice. And Reverend Banks, I'm curious, to you, all these decades later, what does justice look like to you? And I know you mentioned compensation as one portion of that, but what is, like how does the city, the state, and all the folks who led to what happened to lightning, Like, what does justice look like for Lightning residents, and to you at this point?
It's no justice. That's the way I see it, really. Most of the people that I knew in Lightning, I knew the Duprees very well. I grew up with most of them, with their kids anyway, and most Lightning residents were not fortunate to own homes. Most of us rented homes. Am I right? And the people that owned the homes, they got very little money for them when they had to move. But the people that rent, they get nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing. Just say, get up, get out. And we were already struggling just to survive. So now you got to try to come up with some more money to move. And if you didn't, you were going to get thrown out. So you had to come up with money to move. And that was very difficult for my family. I don't know about nobody else's family, but we weren't rich. We didn't have a whole lot of money. We had to struggle sometimes just to make it through a day. But we had good neighbors that looked out for each other. Oh, we can bring you dinner. Oh, you can come over and eat with us. Oh, it's fine. You know, we got enough. So what hurts more now, and I'm trying to see, am I getting to where you want me to go?
We'll get there.
I don't know how nobody else feels, but I wrote a book about life, and it's going to be out pretty soon. I hope everybody buy it. Please, everybody, please buy it. And I want to make it into a movie. So that's my goal, that I'm going to be throwing back at people that I know. If I get some money, I'm throwing it back at the folk that I know from life, because it's all about people that were left out, didn't get anything from the love and the sacrifices that they made while they were a family. And I call Lightning a family, not just a community. We were a family. And I want to do something about it to help, if I can, before I leave this area. So that's why I speak about compensation so, because look what's happening with Lightning now. Not only did they build the Georgia Dome first, Nancy Mercedes Stadium, and then the Georgia World Congress Center, now they're getting ready to do a multi-billion-dollar project, still in a portion of Lightning, and we're still not getting any record, nothing. My goal is to have an exhibition in that project that they're doing.
Every time I don't know if you've driven by there in the past 2 or 3 months, but every time I go up or down Northside Drive, there's another floor added to this giant hotel in the middle of
Right,
and
right. That's what I'm looking at.
And that's,
that's
to your
exactly
point.
what I'm talking about. We should have some type of something in this building. It's still was a part of Lightning, and I think it should be a way where we can generate funds from this, whatever we put in there. It should be an exhibit like this, or something representing what was here before this was here. And we need to be paid. I'm gonna say it again, we need to be paid. I'm just sorry.
And that is correct, because when you think about, when I look back, they knew what they was doing to this neighborhood. They knew the amount of money that they was gonna make in the long run. Because initially, they had already, now this was someone brought to my attention a while back, that when my grandfather was alive, they had told him, he had knowledge, he had heard information that, hey, they want to get rid of the community. That was in the late 60s. My grandfather died in 72 at that point. Like I said, I was about 10. But they knew what kind of money they was going to get. They knew what they was doing. They wanted that spot because we were so close to downtown, that they would be able to build up that area. So they knew. And the money they gave the families there was ridiculous. They could have put something in place, but hey, you're gonna get an interest percentage every year. for your land. But instead, they get this like he's speaking. Get this, that's it. They knew what they was doing. They knew, they felt that that was a red line community. A lot of people was uneducated and that they didn't have the knowledge of what was going on. Of course, I didn't have the knowledge. I was a child. I was getting ready to go to college. I was happy as I don't know what. So, I didn't know how to tell my aunties, my mother, about what the information I got now as an adult. But they knew that they was gonna make money. And just to hear that they have a hotel over there, that's ridiculous. And they got homes that $500,000 around the area. They knew, just like they want to take that green land. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm about to say the green land over the Cop City. That's a whole nother thing I can get into too. But I appreciate you. They knew.
We want to invite any of you who want to chat more, come up to the microphone so everyone else can hear you, and we'll continue the conversation.
Hello.
And if you can, say your name for those that don't know you.
I'm Clyde Wilson of the Wilson family, one of the biggest, the two biggest families, the Wilson and the Dupree. My dad named Sylvester and he had 26 kids. And, listening to them, I'm reminded I had fun coming up. See, I didn't know we was poor. No. I didn't know that. You couldn't, because we had a thing where at Christmas time we had, I had my little overall, coveralls, whatever you call them, with the pecans in my pocket and the herbs in the apple. Come on. And we had chickens in our backyard. You know what I'm saying? I remember when the chickens and the pigs would get out, I had to run and catch them. But we was in the neighborhood and everybody knew they down there. And I remember growing up, the lady used to call her son, can call him 6 blocks, Lee! P-Roll! And the thing going, we had a great time. To get in a fight with no knife. I remember I used to fight the dude, I used to have to fight about 3 of them. Yeah, but the thing is, when it was over, we still went to school and had a good time. All of us went to Mount Gilead. And thinking about what they was talking about. See, we didn't learn about we were being robbed until after we went off to school and years later, because that's what happened with the neighborhood. We got robbed. And so when you go to Georgia, the World Congress Center, so what they built on, they standing on top of what robbery took place. Mm-hmm. Coercion took place, murder took place, blood took place. Because we did it all in enlightenment. I remember Cricket. In Cricket Hill. I was 5 years old, Cricket told me, come on, let's go down to Joe Cohen. And he said, P-Roll, get them bananas and go out the store. And I got them, and on my way out the store, Cricket said, Mr. Joe, look at P-Roll getting your bananas. But that's the kind of fun that we had. And the thing is, and let's be clear about it, we may not never get reparation of pain, but somebody needs to know the story. What was birthed out of light. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? See, Roz and me, all of us were birthed out of light. And although the village itself is not there, our love is still there. No matter where we see, I remember somebody today told me, don't call her Google, you must don't know. But I know her as Google, but I respect her as Gwen. Just like they call me P-Roll. But the thing is, going to school was not an option. Yeah. Oh, you going? Yeah. Oh, and let's be clear about it. And see, they was nice to we got the beat down. They took, and see, the family in enlightenment, they believed in the word of God. The laying the hands was definitely one. Yeah. They laid hands. And on Sunday morning, everybody going to church. Everybody gonna be down listening at Jerome talking about a charge to keep our hands. Yeah. God to glorify. Yeah. Then we went home and ate that fried chicken. Yeah. And them cabbages. And I remember Pat Pooh. I was out there running my mouth and kept playing, and she threw a baseball and hit me in the ear. And then that's all it was. Well, I'm going to the school and fight this. No, you got your calling. If you ran your mouth, you got what was coming, and the beauty of it is, it made us better.
Yeah.
It made us better. And when I listen to Jerome, I still hear the bitterness. But then I'm reminded of history that some had to die where others could live. You know, I'm reminded. And so I remember reading this book and seeing this movie, Beloved.
Yeah.
And when I think about lightning, I think about what they call it sweet home, or down home. See, it's some things young folks will never be able to understand. That's why we got that fight in us. It's in our blood. It's in our DNA. It's what we do. You know, it's what we do. So therefore, somebody needs to tell the story of how we overcame. You know what I'm saying? It was something about running, like she said, I thought it was a big old house. And I cannot be convinced of nothing else. But and the thing is, we didn't know that's what they was doing. But like Jerome said, everybody couldn't own their property. For those renters, we didn't have a choice. See, that's rape. That's wrong.
That's it.
I don't care how you look at it. You know, I don't care. And then I like what he said, the fair market value. That's a term that they still use. Amen.
Yeah.
They doing it to the blood.
Yeah.
They did it to Fifth Ward. Y'all know her and the home is nothing. See, they understand. They started with us. And it has not changed.
Oh, I was just going to say, the point that you're making about us all trying to preserve the story of lightning. One of the first people, as we've been going through archives and talking to different former residents of the neighborhood, one of the first people to really, decades ago, when the neighborhood was still there, one of the first people who was trying to preserve the history even back then is in this room today, and I'd be remiss if I didn't give him a shout out and say, but Mr. Ward, Tillman Ward, who you want to just raise your hand for a second?
Well, we all know Tillman. We talk regular.
When I have been going to the History Center and Mr. Ward is one of the people who in the late 80s, you can see this in the historic record and in this exhibit, was among the folks trying to, along with someone named Sister Ali, who was a Vine City resident, was trying to preserve one of the houses in Lightning, and ultimately was unsuccessful in doing so. But without some of their fight and advocacy back then, the record of what happened in the final days of Lightning would not have been there in the History Center and other places, and not in this exhibit. So I just wanted to say hello to Mr. Ward and say thank you for helping preserve early history that allowed this effort to continue to this day, and for us to continue to have these conversations.
And as I sit down and see, the story of Lightning has to continue to be told. Just like we watch the movie Roots. It's just like when they try to tell you the history of the Jews, this history needs to be told. How the blood was shed and sweat to our grandkids, so they'll know what's in them. It's in them. You just got to keep on fighting, because it will. It is in you. And understand that, the bigger the fall, the better the comeback if you made of the right stuff.
Yeah.
Amen.
Thank you for sharing all that. Does anyone else want to come up and have questions?
I have a question. I'm Veronica Rush Teets. I am Ms. Rosa Kate Dupree Rush's daughter. Y'all talked about Joe Coyne. It sounds like he was just great for the community, for our community. What happened to him? Where's his family?
That's a great question, and I don't know the answer to that. Do either of you?
We can't hear.
My name is Cassandra Scott Elamine. My grandmother was Ollie Scott. They lived on Town Street. Part of this big, huge Dupree community we had a whole family over there. But Joe Coyne's son, Michael, I did see him at a Kroger store one day, and he was working for Kroger's as some sort of manager, so I'm sure he's still in the grocery store business. Yeah.
What location was that?
I think it may have been on Ponce, but the old Ponce, not now, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.